Thank you. Hello, good evening and welcome to Look North, our top story tonight. As river levels continue to rise in York, businesses prepare the pumps in a bid to protect their properties.
It's not ideal for the business. It'll bring a few people in asking us questions. They might have a hot drink or a quick beer. But it certainly does affect the bookings and it will affect our trade.
We'll get the latest from Paul on those rainfall levels. Also tonight, a man's in hospital after being seriously injured during a suspected gas explosion in West Yorkshire. The incredible strike that earned Sheffield Wednesday a win will have a roundup of the New Year's Day footy action. And Bradford shows off some unique attractions as its special year as the City of Culture gets underway.
Well, despite the dazzling sunshine, temperatures have already fallen back below freezing point. It's a proper cold spell and there's some snow in the forecast later in the weekend. Join me for the very latest.
Hello, thank you for watching this Thursday evening. First tonight, a number of flood warnings remain in place in North Yorkshire after heavy rainfall of recent days. The Environment Agency says flood defences have worked and have prevented most businesses and properties from being deluged. But as river levels continue to rise in York tonight, businesses there have been preparing the pumps in a bid to protect their properties. Kathy Killick has spent the day in York.
The heavy rain of the last 2 days has arrived in York, making for dramatic pictures along the River Ouse. But the good news is the flood defences are doing their job, limiting both damage and disruption.
Well, the river levels here in York are expected to peak at about 8 o'clock this evening. They're just inching in around me now. But the peak level is expected to be about 3.8 metres. And during the very worst floods in York in the year 2000, the peak was 5.4 metres. So 3.8 is really quite manageable with very few properties affected.
For the businesses that are flooded, well-worn routines swing into action. At Plonker's Wine Bar, just yards from the river, they keep pipes permanently ready and simply connect them to portable pumps. When the water starts coming in later, they'll be ready.
We'll come in just before midnight, between 10 and 12. Once the place is shut, we'll start a deep clean, bleach the floors, jet wash the floors, start putting all the hoses away, deep clean them, clean all the pumps. We can be back open for the next morning.
The city's MP, Rachel Maskell, wants to see improved insurance schemes for frequently flooded businesses. She also warns that York's defences, while working now, won't be enough in future.
We know from the Environment Agency and the mapping that they've done is that the river levels are rising year on year with these adverse weather events, but also they're happening more frequently due to the changes of the climate. We need to ensure that we have got the resilience in place. We know the infrastructure which they've put in place has got until about 2039 to keep our city safe, but beyond that we need to be prepared.
Elsewhere, the flooding of farmland is widespread, and in low-lying villages it's a case of watch and wait.
Well, it won't come in. Won't. Be positive.
Valerie Brown has lived in her riverside cottage for more than 60 years. Flooding is something she lives with.
Well, we do have some poles, we have pumps, we have floodgates, and very good friends that we can call on at the last minute. Help.
The waters will ebb rapidly in the next 24 hours, but the weather is a great unknown. More rain on now saturated land could see the floods rise again. Kathy Killick, BBC Look North, York.
Well, Paul's with us now. Communities across the region, Paul, no doubt breathing a sigh of relief. But how much rainfall has there been?
Well, it was quite a notable rainfall event. It was quite surprising we didn't have more flooding than was reported. I mean, Bainbridge had 72 millimetres in 24 hours. That's near the River Bain in Wensleydale, and that's on about 3 weeks worth of rain, which fell in 18 hours. And many of the Environment Agency sites across the Pennines of West and South Yorkshire recorded between 60 and 90 millimetres. And if you saw the news over the weekend, there was quite a bit of flooding in Lancashire, and a lot of these rivers have the same source right over the top of the Pennines.
Lots of improvements to flood defences in recent times.
Yeah.
Are they beginning to work, do you think?
I think it's a combination of better flood defences, which have been built up over the past 10, 15 years, but also crucially we came off the back of actually 5 or 6 days worth of dry weather, and the river levels were at normal levels. So it's a combination of the two. I mean, I spoke to the Environment Agency and this is what they told me earlier today.
So the flood defences are operating as expected. In terms of the rain that we've had, river levels respond differently in different places. So in the upper catchments, they respond much more quickly, and there the levels are starting to drop. But lower down in the catchment, it takes time for the water to work through, and there we're still seeing the river levels rising.
So that's the Environment Agency. I suppose the viewers may be wondering, is there more to come?
Well, I mean, it's interesting that obviously the catchments are completely saturated. You saw the pictures of the Aire Valley near Conningley. The floodplain is completely awash. So river levels will fall, but water will remain in the floodplains. And this weekend, we've got a combination of heavy rain and potentially some snowfall across the Pennine catchments where the rivers have been quite high. So it's certainly one we're going to have to watch.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Of course, there'll be forecasts throughout the weekend as well. Paul, thank you very much for that update. Well, the recent winter storms have meant more worry for communities that are vulnerable to flooding. The Calder Valley escaped the worst during Storm Bert in November and in recent days of heavy rainfall. Now, a scheme is being rolled out in West Yorkshire to help people deal with the psychological impact of flooding by encouraging them to share their experiences. I've been to Mytholmroyd to see it in action. These are moments many in Mytholmroyd dread. Whenever the river rises, so too do levels of anxiety. Residents and businesses here are nothing if not resilient. While the physical impact of flooding is soon swept away, the psychological effect can be long-lasting. At this popular local cafe, they have a well-rehearsed plan, but the worry never really goes away.
The latest storm that we had, it was 2 days before, checking the river levels, getting kind of an idea of how much rain was due to fall, and then preparing for it. So then you're up all night because you're checking river levels, you're kind of speaking to everybody else, and it has a real toll on people's mental health and the anxiety that's around that. It's awful.
But help with the mental health aspect of flooding could be at hand. A £36,000 pilot scheme is underway in West Yorkshire to help improve the well-being of communities at risk of flooding. It works by getting flood victims to share their experiences.
We need to understand what people are going through in order to help them, so we need those first-hand stories from them. If they're willing to give them, we just need to understand what they need and what will help them along the way to become more flood resilient. We often look at flood defences, which are solid things, and this is about people and what they need to take away that anxiety and worry every time it rains, basically.
Hello and welcome to Hebden Bridge, reeling yet again from serious flooding, this time due to Storm Ciara.
For those who've suffered the trauma after a flood, anything that helps reduce stress and soothe the soul is to be welcomed.
It's a really good idea. People don't realise the impact that flooding has. I think you see it on the TV, until you've been impacted by it, you don't realise. And you don't realise just how hard it is living with that threat all the time.
The visible cost of a flood is usually clear to assess, but it's the hidden impact that's often far more difficult to quantify. It's hoped this could help change all that for the benefits of areas most at risk. And we'll keep an eye on how that scheme goes over the coming weeks and months. Next tonight, a man is in hospital after being seriously injured in an explosion at his house in Yeadon last night. No one else was injured, but several homes were evacuated and there was substantial damage to 2 properties. Carla Fowler has been at the scene for us today.
People in houses streets away were woken by the blast around 10:30 last night. The explosion on Marshall Street in Yeadon blew out the windows and cladding to the walls of this house. The 57-year-old occupant remains seriously ill in hospital. Neighbour Andrew was one of the first on the scene.
Well, we were laid in bed and next thing you know we had an almighty bang and the house shook. So I jumped out of bed, put my shorts on and I run round the corner and run up the street and saw all these windows and doors and everything in the middle of the street. Run up to his house, shouted at the door, is there anybody in there? And he just appeared out of nowhere. Then we rung emergency services. They turned up and that were it. We just checked him over and rushed him off to hospital, poor fella.
Andrew and several other close neighbours were evacuated from their homes for a short time. West Yorkshire Police have said initial investigations suggest it was a gas explosion.
I've heard that it's a gas related inside the house, but we haven't really heard much else. Obviously there's a lot of speculation, quite a few people being evacuated on the street as well.
We were like a bomb exploding. That's how loud it was. And, you know, obviously some houses have been damaged.
Just a really loud bang, just jumped out of our skin. We thought somebody was trying to break in, and then we thought something had happened at the airport. Something like a plane might have gone off the runway or something, and then Facebook lit up.
Now, engineers from Northern Gas Networks were here within the hour last night supporting emergency services investigations. And in a statement to Look North, they say, "We were made aware of an incident at a property in Eden around 10:40 on New Year's Day. At this stage, there is nothing to suggest that the incident is linked to our network, but as a precaution, we have switched off the gas supply to this property and an adjoining property." The injured man is in a critical but stable condition in hospital. West Yorkshire Police have confirmed there are no suspicious circumstances. Investigations are ongoing. Carla Fowler, BBC Look North, Yeadon.
Thanks, Carla. You're watching Thursday's Look North. It's just coming up to 6:45. Next tonight, former mine workers in our region are urging the government to share out a pension scheme surplus, leading to extra pension payments for thousands of former staff. Now, in October last year, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves from Leeds announced the entirety of mine workers' pension scheme would be handed over to ex-coal miners and their families. But no date has yet been set by the government to look at a surplus in the separate British Coal Staff superannuation scheme. Here's Mark Hansel.
Michael started as a miner aged 16 and after more than 3 decades working underground ended his career at Hatfield Colliery. He paid into the British Coal Staff Superannuation Pension Scheme, also known as BCSSS. He's calling for the government to share the surplus from the scheme.
It's just fairness. It's fairness, it's our money, and it should be given back to the people who contributed the money to the scheme.
Last October, the government announced all of the separate mine workers' pension scheme would be handed over to ex-coal miners and their families, but they set no date to look at the surplus in the separate BCSSS scheme. Phil Sherburn, who was a mining engineer, was transferred to the latter pension scheme towards the end of his career.
Time's of the essence, in my view. We're losing 6 members of our scheme every day.
Because they're dying?
Because they're dying off, yeah. I mean, I'm a relatively new pensioner. I've only been in pension for just over a year now, but there's guys dropping off the cliff at the other end, which, you know, it's tragic.
Kim Smith worked for the Coal Board in finance and administration. She's calling for the government to share the pension surplus.
It would help everybody, because also if you put that money, gave the money back, increased pensions, that money would not only go into your local economy, but then of course the revenue, you know, would be creaming off their income tax from it. So it makes sense for so many reasons.
In a statement, the government says the 2 pension funds operated differently, and the Minister for Industry, Sarah Jones, recently met with trustees of the BCSSS and has committed to talking to the Treasury about their proposals. The Bassett Law MP has been collaborating with other Labour parliamentarians from former coal mining areas to call for change.
We're all shouting from the same hymn sheet. I believe that this pressure is creating that shift. I've already met with many of those MPs. We are united in fighting this cause, and I'm hoping that we hear some good news in the new year.
Until profits from the money they paid in their pensions are shared out, these former mine workers will not stop campaigning. Mark Hansel, BBC Look North.
Well, Bledin Hancock is the pensioner representative on the British Coal Staff Superannuation Scheme. He was at the latest meeting with the government, and I asked him a little earlier what came out of that meeting.
The government accepted that we may have been overlooked, and it's now been sent to the Treasury, and we hope to have a favourable response from them.
The government says the scheme operates in a different way to the miners' pension scheme, and it's taken no money from the scheme's surpluses since 2015.
Overall, the government's taken 3.2 billion out of our scheme over the years, but we are the same as the mine workers. We worked underground too. I was a colliery official at Merthyr Vale Colliery. My father was badly injured. He lost a leg at Merthyr Vale Colliery. He was an underground coal miner. He was a member of the staff scheme. We've got many widows of our members who've died suffering from chest disease. They were all underground miners. And one of the last men killed in a British coal mine, David Shelton, he died in 1993 in the Bilsthorpe Colliery disaster. He was a colliery under manager, and he was awarded the George Cross posthumously for his bravery in trying to save the other men. So we have worked for this money, we've suffered for this money, we've bled for it, we've died for it. It is our money and we would like to have it returned to us.
Why do you think it's taking so long to resolve this issue in comparison to, say, the miners' pension scheme?
I've spoken to many Labour MPs and they all have the same opinion, that we were simply overlooked. They thought that they were dealing with all the miners, and I think they simply forgot that we were miners too. So I think that's the only explanation. I think it's a very reasonable explanation, and we've asked them to lobby on our behalf, which they have. Thousands of our members have contacted their MPs, and we hope to get a favourable response from the Treasury.
If the surplus is shared out briefly, Bledin, what would it mean for individual members?
A very substantial pension increase. There's a win-win there. Our members would get a very substantial pension increase. The mine workers pension scheme got a 32% increase with the return of their investment reserve. We'd have there or thereabouts roughly the same, perhaps a bit more. But the government would gain too. Our members are elderly, they pay income tax, and they wouldn't save this money for a rainy day, because it's a rainy day with the cost of living problems already. They'd spend it and they'd pay 20% VAT on that. There's a real win-win here. It's an unfairness that needs to be resolved and an injustice that needs to be put right.
OK, well, we'll certainly keep an eye on the situation. Bledin Hancock, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
OK, let's get some news in brief now. Changes to help reduce traffic on Gillygate in York have started today. A 12-month trial by the City of York Council to help improve air quality across the city will see the introduction of new traffic light sequencing to reduce stationary traffic on the road with the worst air quality. The aim is to gather air quality data and to compare this with pollution in previous years. Work on Sheffield city centre's Fargate will finally be completed after months of delays. The council has been installing new paving, planters and underground bins, but costs spiralled. Sheffield Council says the work is due to be finished in February. Traders have also been frustrated with the length of time the work has taken, and shoppers told us how difficult it's been.
It doesn't seem to progress at all, and it's turning into months, turning into years, and we haven't had a nice city centre for a long time, have we?
This has been going on some time, so the thing about it is it takes too long. It seems to be.
So all it's going to be is another walkway through. It's not going to be shops that we can shop or anything like that. And it seems to me to be so expensive at a time when everyone's needy that it just is not necessary.
Well, Sheffield City Council has thanked people for their patience and said Fargate will be a fabulous space for shopping and events. Let's hope it gets completed on time. OK, let's turn to sport now and look at New Year's Day football. And be warned, if you like your goal scored from a long way out, Sheffield Wednesday's Josh Windass has already set a very high standard for 2025. Watch carefully, because Paul Ogden's pick of the action includes what could be the goal of a century. Never mind the goal of the season.
Sheffield Wednesday fans have all watched their personal favourite goals over the years, from Derek Dooley through Hurst and Di Canio. Barry Bannon included, by the way. He actually scored their first in the 4-2 win over Derby yesterday. But Wednesday's second goal, delivered by Josh Windass from inside his own half, will surely be appreciated by any football supporter, and never forgotten by those on the Hillsborough Cop who watched it fly away over the keeper just inside the post. Josh Windass's 50th and guaranteed best ever goal for Sheffield Wednesday.
Got to be good, haven't you? Just got to have good technique and produce it. Obviously, I've been striking balls since I was 3 years old, so yeah, just technique.
Follow that. Wednesday did, actually, with more from JD Gassama and Anthony Musaba to help themselves to a 10th win of the championship season and 9th position after 25 matches. Up above, Leeds United start the new year still on top of the championship despite being held 1-1 at home by Blackburn. Pascal Strauch's late penalty was matched shortly afterwards by an equaliser, which at the time probably frustrated Leeds fans until they watched Sheffield United stumble at Sunderland last night. A 2-1 loss for the Blades was their third match without winning over the holiday period, all three of which, mind you, have been against fellow promotion chasers. It actually bumps the Blades outside the top two for the moment into third place. By contrast, Look North's New Year prize for the most fabulous festive run goes to Barnsley. Brilliant again yesterday in knocking over Wrexham by 2-1, making it 3 wins out of 3. Davis Keeler-Dunn and Adam Phillips, the Reds' goal scorers. Barnsley now sits 6th in the table, 2 positions below Huddersfield Town, whose match at Wigan was called off. Rotherham United had a great start to 2025 as well. The Millers won 1-0 at Lincoln. In League Two, Doncaster Rovers started the new year in the perfect way with a home win to keep themselves inside the top 3 automatic promotion positions. Against Fleetwood, Owen Bailey grabbed Rovers' first goal of the year, and at 1-1 in injury time, Billy Sharp won it. Rovers are second in the League Two table. Paul Ogden, BBC Look North.
Thanks, Augie. Well, certainly Josh Windus's goal was pretty something else, wasn't it? I'm sure that's got them talking in the pubs and clubs of South Yorkshire. OK, let's turn from sport to art, magic and music. Bradford is taking centre stage this year as the UK's City of Culture. And a brand new BBC drama starring a comedian, the playwright and 2 members of the Emmerdale cast is launching today. Bilal and Ted's Bradfordian Adventures is based on the hit 80s film and tells the story of the city's iconic past. We have taken a look behind the scenes.
Right, here we go. This play is all about, on the one hand, it's all about Bilal and Ted, a couple of clowns from Bradford who go through time and have to get back home to give a presentation. But really, the play is about Bradford and about why the city is the perfect place to be the UK City of Culture.
One word to describe it, I would say, I'm gonna give you 2 words: wild ride.
Very on-brand pen.
Very on-brand pen. People should have a listen to this play because they'll learn a lot about the cultural heritage of Bradford that maybe they didn't know. So it's full of surprises.
I'd say it's such an exciting and wonderful and creative story.
A love letter to Bradford throughout history, you know?
Time travel is just inherently a brilliant way of telling a story. So yeah, to get to use Bill and Ted as my template was a joy.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
It goes without saying, it's really significant that we're doing plays like this, given it's the year of culture. I love it. I love Bradford. So for me, it's just to be part of it is an honour.
Should people listen to this radio play? Yeah, because it's educational and it's entertaining at the same time. Well, it's great being in here because it's warmer, because we're outside in the village at the moment.
So anything that I can be a part of that helps up the profile and show what a rich culture it's got, like what a great place it actually is. Like, I'm so here for it.
That is it.
Oh,
we're finished. All sorted.
I'm so tired.
Yeah, it sounds really good, doesn't it? And if you want to, you can hear the play on BBC Sounds, and it's up there from today. Now, it was cold last night, but that did give us clear skies and another glimpse of the beautiful Northern Lights. Here's a little taste just in case you missed them. Some really stunning images there, so thank you for people to send those in. And Paul, I know for many years I've sort of chased the Northern Lights like most of us do, but this year, or the last sort of 12 months or so, 2024, we seem to get them quite a bit.
We have 2 things going on. We are at the peak of an 11-year solar cycle, so the sun is much more active at the moment. but also our smartphones are picking the colour up more than our eye. So I know a lot of people are disappointed that they didn't see it again last night, but actually to the naked eye, it's really difficult to see.
Yeah, certainly the phones make all the difference. A lot to talk about weather-wise, and a lot of speculation about some lively weather coming this weekend, late Saturday.
Loads of uncertainty, but there is a warning in place. It looks like Saturday night into Sunday morning, we will see some snow, especially across the Pennines, maybe at lower levels as well. But as it stands at the moment, the milder air gets in from the south, turns the snow back to rain, and then next week it's cold but mostly dry, but definitely a risk of disruption Saturday night into Sunday morning. More in a minute. I've got a couple of weather pictures to show you, and you've just seen this in the montage, but I've picked this out because it looks, you remember the tree that got felled in Northumberland? It looks like that sycamore, doesn't it? But that was taken in Todmorden with some beautiful colours. Again, I'm sure that that was almost impossible to see with the naked eye. It was seen through that smartphone, and that was the start of a very cold morning there up to the west of Sheffield. That was taken about 8:20. Temperatures fell down to -4 degrees, and we're looking at similar values tonight. So widespread frost. If you want to send pictures in, addresses on your screen, and more about the potential snow event at the weekend, I've done a reel on Instagram. You can see that on X as well if you log on there. Right, let's have a look at the details. There's a lot to get through, starting with tomorrow's forecast, of course, and that warning for snow, which is in place after dark Saturday evening, Saturday night, and lasts into Sunday morning. This is what's happening then. We're in the deep cold air, but the milder Atlantic tries to get in, it bangs into the cold air. There's the risk of snow Saturday night into Sunday. The milder air gets in for a time, but it does get shoved back southwards, and it looks like next week we're back in the cold air. So a decent cold spell is likely as we head through the first half of January. Now, any showers are just offshore. One or two have been clipping into the Yorkshire coastline, but it does look as though most of them will clear. And then overnight, it's a fairly straightforward forecast. It's dry and cold with a widespread frost. We're looking at temperatures coming in at around about -4 or -5 degrees. Watch out for widespread ice, especially with all the runoff following the weekend's rainfall. Tomorrow's high water times there for tomorrow. It's a fairly straightforward forecast. It's a sunny start, a few wintry showers filtering down from the northwest during the day, but many dry, cold and breezy, highs of 4 degrees. Live forecast to come at 10:30. More on that snow situation.
Yeah, certainly. It is January, so we should expect it, should we?
Indeed.
OK, thank you, Paul. As Paul says, I'll be back along with him at 10:30. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening. Have a very good night. Thanks for watching.